Hello, and welcome to the My Spiritual Friends podcast. I'm your host, Joni Lorraine. And here at My Spiritual Friends, we delve into our spiritual journeys and discover how sharing these experiences with others can lead to personal growth and flourishing. This season, we're shining a light on the spiritual lives of the LGBTQ+ community. We'll explore what it means to be both spiritual and gay, and discuss how we can build connections that support the unique and authentic spiritual needs of this incredible community. If you find value in the conversation today, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Your support means the world to me. And for more insights and resources, visit my website at jonilorraine.com and subscribe to my Substack at spiritualdirection.substack.com. If you feel inspired to contribute, I gratefully accept your donations at buymeacoffee.com/Joni Lorraine. Enough of that. Now let's embark on this journey together. I invite you to sit alongside me as we visit with my spiritual friends. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Joni Lorraine, your host for My Spiritual Friends, and I am here today, right now, with one of my favorite spiritual friends. This is Leslie Starnes. We have known each other for ages. And before we start, I just want to say that you will read sometimes in my bio on my website and as a spiritual director that people have said of me that I am someone has once said of me, I'm either the most serious, fun person or the most fun, serious person they know. So in the case of being with Leslie, I'm probably going to be the most fun, serious person, But I'm going to give Leslie a chance to introduce herself and say anything she wants to say about her own experience of spirituality and her spiritual path. So hi, Leslie. I'm glad you're with me.
Wow, what a treat. What a treat. Knowing you as long as I have, I consider you part of, you're in 3 of my chapters. So I love you're still in my book, and I feel like we get closer to being on comparable spiritual paths the older we get. Of course, you're a little bit more dug in than I am because I'm an exterior cleaner. I got to clean. But anyway, as far as my spiritual path went, my parents, we were brought up denominational. So we went to the Church of Today before Unity was around.
For those of us who don't know, tell us about Church of Today.
That was the church that kind of started it all. It was a very brave baby church that was out there saying, we are not going to follow your rules. We're going to take in all different kinds of religions and beliefs, and we're going to morph them into something where you can be comfortable coming to church and getting what you need from this experience, regardless of your religious background. And it really did open my eyes so there's a difference between religion and spirituality. I thought they were the same, like hawks and vultures, until I knew that there was a difference. Not that they compare hawks and vultures anyway. That was a bad analogy. But anyway, it really made me more comfortable about going to church. I hated going to church before that. I don't like structured religion, and I didn't know that I didn't like structured religion. I just thought I didn't like that church, that Presbyterian church we used to go to in Houston. We started to go to Church of Today, and I cannot, Al and Jan were the ministers of that. I cannot think of their last name. I'm sorry, Jan. Anyway, it was every time you left, you just felt engulfed with, the spirit of love, and what a great experience that was. And it wasn't daunting, and it wasn't like, oh my God, if we have to sing this song one more verse. I just loved going. When life got on me hard, I went to the Pavilion, which was sponsored by the Church of Today. When I came back from the Pavilion, I was very much a godling. Jillian will attest to that. And that's when I really dug in, and I really got spiritual, and I really started following things. And then I ran back into you and we were kind of walking along the same little areas, of course, you going really deep into it. That's kind of my path. I just believe that, we're all children of God. There's not one person there's not one anything. We're all stardust. It's just cool when you really get into the deepness of it. How there was nothing, and then here we are. And there will be nothing again, probably, at some point. But anyway, that's another conversation.
So you said something about the Pavilion. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I've had an opportunity to spend some time with the founders of the Pavilion myself, but I didn't do the program. So would you be willing to talk a little bit about that?
Of course. Yeah, when I went, it was in full swing. We went to Canada. My parents did not send me there. They waited for me to ask for help. That was the most important thing out of everything, to wait for me. If you don't want to go, then don't go. Go kill yourself slowly the way you're doing it now, or go. We'll support you if you go. We got you. Here's a woman named Gleva. I don't know if you ever got to meet Gleva, but I went and spoke with her, and that got me all signed up for the pavilion. And I thought, there's never going to be another opportunity for me to clean my life up. It's gonna either I'm gonna live or I'm gonna die. It's right here, and it's a decision I got to make, right? So I made that decision, and then and while we're in the pavilion, so that it was a treatment for everything from codependency all the way to heroin, right? I mean, my yummy struggle was cocaine. That's the way it was back in the 80s, right? And anyway, big struggles with the big drug stuff, and that's why I'm a complete believer. Like, if you do go to treatment, or if you have somebody you love going through treatment, please don't let them go back to the same place they came from before the treatment. Please, just I can't even be an advocate for it. I've got a niece who's been through treatment 5 times because she keeps getting out of treatment and going back to her boyfriend. It's just if you don't go into a brand new environment and start over, the success rate's really low. So I'm a firm believer in that. We had to move to Austin or Detroit after treatment. No to Detroit. Okay. So thank God my parents lived in Austin. And plus, Austin was such a cool town back in the 80s where it was kind of like, I have to move to Austin. Shoot. And so I moved here right after treatment. I mean, I didn't even say goodbye to anybody in Houston. It was kind of something I did for myself, where I wasn't going to engage with one more person that shared my passion for cocaine and beer. I didn't want to meet him. I didn't want to see him. I wanted to run away. Whatever that looked like, it got me here to Austin. And I just started a brand new life. I mean, I did work at a local bar, but it was just so far beyond me. All that I wasn't even thinking about booze or drugs. Working in a bar was just, looking back on it, kind of real dumb. But I was really successful, and I think I probably helped a couple of people that were struggling too.
That's where
But
you and I have some parallel. We have some parallel. Yeah, I sobered up. I didn't do a program other than AA, but the first couple of years that I sobered up, I worked in a bar still. Yeah, I still worked at a bar. Sometimes I felt like, I don't know, like I was in Cheers or something, the sober.
yeah, it was so weird
Yeah.
to
Eventually it just
be.
gets too hard to do.
I never found it to be hard to do. I mean, I did slip. I did drink a few times, but I mean, I'm sure working at the bar did not help the situation, right? But I feel like I did some good there working at the bar. But anyway, so the pavilion really helped me clean my life up. And then I started just going to Church Today when I got back, and then it morphed into Unity. And there used to be just Unity South, I think. Was there just Unity South for a little bit?
Yeah.
And then I was elated when Unity North opened, and oh gosh, what were their names?
Ron and Lenore?
Ron and Lenore. And Lenore actually came up to Canada. I knew Lenore. She was, I went my 4th step with her. So I just thought, I mean, that's not coincidence. I gotta go to Unity. And so I went for a while, and then, I mean, I was in a band. It was just really hard to stay on a committed schedule for anything back in the day. But here we are. I think that I definitely am just a very spiritual person. I don't believe in structured religion still. Whatever helps you get through the day is what I think spirituality is.
You said something about, we've been talking about the bars, right? And someone I have also interviewed earlier for the podcast spoke to the spirituality, this sort of sacred ritual that is experienced when we queer people get together in a bar. And it's a spiritual experience. It can be a spiritual experience. Like for me, I found God in the rooms of 12-step programs. I was brought up as an Episcopalian, but that was not necessarily where I found God. That's not where I learned about a personal relationship with God. I learned that as a young adult in 12-step rooms. And I also learned it in community. You and I we're both tiny little extroverts. Being with people and being in relationship is also a pretty spiritual experience for me, just connecting with folks. So
it's totally your gift. I mean, you found it. I mean, I just feel like you really share your love for spirituality so well with others. I hope I worded that right. I feel like every time I hear you speak, it's so funny. I just sit there going, that's Joni. That's weird. Yeah, I'm supposed to be listening. Okay. It's just, but the things that you share they always say, whenever you share something, I'm always like, oh, I thought that was just me. Ooh, cool. Okay, good. And that's important, because sometimes you feel like you're all alone, and then someone else talks about something that you just think you're the only one that does it, So, sorry, I have tried.
No, you didn't. That was cool. Thank you for the acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And That reminds me that I'm inviting you if you want more of that, and anyone who's listening who wants more of that. My Substack is spiritualdirection.substack.
Oh,
Leaving this in.
thank you.
Right. This is, yeah, now that's how God works. People don't want to subscribe to your Substack, Joni. Don't get it right. Spiritualdirection.substack.com.
You want a beer? Let's go get a beer.
So, where do you think those intersections of spirituality and being queer connect? What do you think?
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask that question to, because I really am at a point in my life where I just don't feel queer anymore. I just don't feel, COVID, everything's kind of taken us out of our, I don't want to say complacency, but out of our normal places where we integrated and communed together. And now we're so used to staying home. It's hard to get me out of the house, and I am an extrovert, and I know
Yeah.
it's good for me to be around people so I can suck their energy out of them. But no, I just feel like I'm fine staying home now. And it's like I had to put a shirt on for this. It's just so funny how everything seems so like such a hassle now to go do stuff. You want to go to, why don't you pick up some fried chicken and come over and we'll watch some basketball on the TV? I don't want to go out. And then also since we're just chit chat, I don't have the urge to want to live with anybody or be, and I just had this talk with somebody else. It's weird I don't want to be too weird on your podcast.
No, that's okay. I have an editing tool.
So smart. You're smart. That's what you are. Because I don't have a gate. But I just don't feel like I don't do any gay stuff anymore. I don't do queer stuff anymore. I go out, I got my own business. I go out, pressure wash all day long, and then come home and lay on the couch and play solitaire, watch a little bit of basketball. It's just so weird how I got so used to doing stuff by myself that I'm completely happy doing that. But I also noticed that, I haven't spoken with somebody in a really long time. I wonder if I should even bother. That's where I go. We haven't even talked since COVID. So, you have to have the way you make relationships happen, or there's a connection. There's something that bonds you to make that relationship start up, friendship or anything else. And if you don't foster that, if you don't pay attention to it and at least water it every now and then it breaks and it's gone. And you can't make a new connection just like make a phone, like, hey, Joni, I know it's been a while. Let's chit chat. Let's connect again. You really have to work at stuff like that. Nobody likes to work at relationships. That's stupid, right? So, but my spirituality, I don't think it doesn't play a part in that. My spirituality is basically, I just really feel like we're all from the same stuff. We're all just, and the energy that we're built from is just love, and it's just, if we could just get back to that's my dream for everybody. And I know it's very utopian and crazy because, you can't prepare for war and peace at the same time and all that. But man, if we could get back to just knowing that, our spark of life comes from something and it goes somewhere. It doesn't just die. It doesn't dissipate. So that's my spirituality. That's what I think about that a lot. Like, where do we go after this? What goes on? Do we all just does the energy just leave our body and go back into a big ball of energy somewhere in the universe? And then it's redistributed as people and other things are born to spark the life back. Yeah, I don't know. But that's my spirituality. That's really the way I think about it. And I think that if everybody could just really focus on the love part and not the differences, and quit it with the labeling, quit it with everything. Just come back to the human race. If we label one more person, if we come up with one more label for one more person who's different, we're breeding prejudice in that way. I think that's my feeling.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. So when you think of spirituality and what you're referring to, you find yourself thinking on a daily basis about the movement of something in your life. Do you find it in the work you do? Do you find it in the people that you work with? Do you find it in nature? Do you find it anywhere?
Yes. The answer to all of those things, all those things that you mentioned, because owning my own business is a spiritual experience all on its own. But for instance, I went out to Dripping Springs and was doing a pretty big job out by somebody's pool. And a snake slithered away and I went and got him and put him in the shade by a tree, by some water. And then a scorpion comes out and I got him and put kind of close to where the snake was. And the girl that owned the place was like, you can kill the scorpions. And I go, you can kill the scorpions. I don't kill any animal that's not out to hurt me. So I mean, and it's not that I'm up here and everybody else is down here. The only mosquitoes and cockroaches, okay, let's bend the rules.
I'm with you on that.
But I mean, even with the scorpion, my little the tech that works for me, he was like, I can't believe you're holding that. But I had gloves on. I mean, I'm not an idiot. And it was just like that big. But I mean, I love interacting with nature. I'm on the board for the Austin Zoo. So I get to be a part of something that I really believe in. Because my heart's not really big for a lot of things, but it's big for animals because they really don't have a choice with what we've done to them. You know, we have to take care of them and foster them. And the ones at the zoo will never be able to be in the wild again because humans, you know? So I'm glad to be a part of that.
Cool. Tell me more about that. That's a little corner of your life I don't know too much about.
Well, about, I guess, 5 years ago, the Austin Zoo was under pretty strong scrutiny for some of the people that worked at the zoo didn't think it was being run very well. And I have always known the executive director, and they've been really good friends of my parents. So it's one of those things where it's like, I know that it's not her making a bad zoo. That's all. I know this lady. And so I called her one day, or I went down to the zoo and I talked with her. I said, if you ever have an opening on the board, I'm interested. And I thought, she's probably never going to ask me because I'm a little goofy and people don't take me seriously sometimes. And that might not be a good fit for me. But it's ended up being a phenomenal fit. And I've been with them for 5 years now. So I really enjoy I feel like you should dedicate part of your life to helping something on a structured level. For me, anyway, I have the structure of doing it once a month and going down there, and it's just good for me to have that on my calendar. And no, I cannot work that day. I got to go to the zoo. I'm doing that, and I get to go. I get to willy nilly in the zoo. I don't have to pay to go in there, and I can have some dog food that they sell at the counter. And I get to go play with animals. What a horrible day. And so anyway, that's just something that I love doing, and it's. You like helping people. I don't, right? I want to help animals. Y'all help the people. I got the animals.
Thank you. We've got it covered. I have lots of friends who help the plants. So we're covered.
Yeah. The plants are just slowly killing us so they can use us as fertilizer, as you know. So I'm breathing their oxygen, folks. Keep on breathing it.
Ooh. Something else you said reminded me of, I was having a conversation with a friend not too long ago who seemed just surprised that I had pretty, I don't know, point of view about what happens when we die. His idea is pretty much reincarnation, if you will, and becoming energy again and dispersing in some other form than we are now. And I said, I lean into that for the most part, but I also don't know. I don't know. And he seemed mystified that I could be comfortable with that. It's just like,
it's like, do you know anybody who does know? Can you,
or do you believe? Right. He's like, I don't know. When I did the S training when I was a kid, like 19 years old, I think you had to be at least 18 to do it anyway. Werner Erhard said, one of the trainers said that Werner Erhard points out that if your consciousness ceases, you won't know anyway.
Right.
So it's either your consciousness will cease or it doesn't.
One or the other.
There you go. And if it ceases, how do you know? So there's that. And it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, a Rilke quote of to keep asking questions, essentially. So I've carried that in my planner when we had to carry planners instead of phones.
I remember the planners. Yeah, we would write stuff down that we were going to do on the day. I know. Yeah. That's what they're going to do with us later.
Yeah. And I would transfer it from year to year about the questions being more important than the answers, which essentially it's to live into the questions and not try to know them now, because someday you'll live into them. We will live into those. And you know what I love about being this age is that I've lived into them.
Touche.
I started to live into them. So, and I think that something else you said earlier was thinking about, it's just a different season. And COVID made seasons different. And I don't mean fall or spring. I mean, our seasons. It's in this season, I think it's easier for me to, not just because I've reached a certain age where I don't have this FOMO, I don't have fear of missing out, but also COVID really quieted me down. I do the same thing. I'm an Uber extrovert, but if somebody wants me to come to a meeting in person, I'm come on. And then
Are you kidding me?
and then alternately, if I go too many days without having a meeting, even virtually, I get a little blue. So the balance is important, but I used to be so extroverted that I did not want to get in my pajamas by 8 at night.
Right.
I didn't,
And now I'm inconvenienced if you make me get out of my pajamas.
right. So it helped me balance a little bit my introvert versus my extrovert. It was pretty helpful in that way. I know that for some folks it made it harder, but for me, it worked out just fine in this particular season of my life. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming to my podcast.
Yes.
I thought that I would die having to work from home. I was pretty sure I would die. Not talking. But I ended up talking to people on the phone, blah, blah, blah. But if I could go back in time and not work from home, I would have rather not. If I don't have structure, I will create structure. That's all there is to that. Because if I don't, I will sit and watch TV all day. That's all there's to that. Owning your own business, right? You get to do what you want. So I just constantly putting things on the schedule. Like, you got to get out. You got to go do this. You got to do.
Yeah. I wonder for you, is order a spiritual practice?
Maybe so. Yeah. Because it's so necessary in my life. So spirituality is necessary. Order is right there next to it. I'm sure they hold hands in a million different ways I never even thought about.
Yeah. When I think of ritual, I think that creates a certain kind of order. And both of us coming from pretty individualistic faith traditions, Church of Today, Unity, our benefit is the individualistic nature of and being welcoming of all spiritual paths. It's also a shadow in terms of disorder. You don't necessarily get order out of that. And we often spend a lot of time figuring out who we are. Sometimes I miss the order of specific rituals that certain other religions provide.
Example.
Okay. So when we did the graveside for my mom's funeral, and she's Episcopalian, so we did the whole Episcopal thing, and the enormous comfort I felt when the priest dropped dirt on her coffin, it gave me enormous comfort. The sound of it, that's a ritualistic thing. The Lord's Prayer, which some people are so averse to, has enormous history and power in it that raises the level and raises the vibration of the people who share it together. So those kinds of rituals are helpful for lots of people, particularly they're somatic, help the nervous system. So I'm just thinking that order is also one of those things that bring us back to center, that help us be in tune with our own spiritual nature. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. But my brain just went off on a completely different tangent when you said there's people that have an aversion to the Lord's Prayer. I've never known anybody who does. I'm just curious on what that aversion looks like. Do you have a quick explanation?
Sure. I'm kind of referring to there are people who have an allergy to Christianity, but they're spiritual. For instance, what you said earlier about spirituality and religion, you had no idea there could be spirituality. There's so many people who have been hurt by the weaponization of religion.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
So there are plenty of them being particularly queer. So there's an aversion to any of those rituals that they may have experienced in a traditional church. So it's a little bit like, I think, maybe throwing the baby out with the bathwater, in terms of there are things that are pretty awesome. During COVID, speaking of COVID, one of the interesting things that Tammy's my wife, for those of you who are listening and don't know that, Tammy worked.
Aren't we supposed to say hot wife? I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think you'll get in trouble if you.
My wife that I am entirely smitten with. So during COVID tide, Tammy worked at the church, and she was one of the dozen or so people who could be there every Sunday because it was the whole thing was her job, right? And at one point we had put a Buddha statue and a cross on the platform. And I promise you, she got kickback from people who didn't want the boot up there, and then she got kickback from the people who didn't want the cross up there.
Everything's got to go.
It's just leave it blank and put some flowers up. Right? Yeah, so there's we all have our triggers, and I think if we're not self-aware enough that that's what's going on, then we will never get to that harmony you were talking about earlier. That sense of peace with one another, to leave each other alone.
I mean, because the biggest wars ever fought are from religion, not spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's clearly ongoing right now. So sadly, and it's all about my God's better than your God.
Yeah.
That's not how you're supposed to do it, but okay.
Yeah. And that doesn't make sense. I mean, I appreciate that it makes sense to the people it makes sense to, but it hasn't made sense to me. Just I don't subscribe to a God that isn't all inclusive.
I'm right there with you, the whole thing. I just feel like, if your God's telling you to kill people that don't believe the same way that you do, I just think it needs a little relook. Just a quick glance. Just take a peeky poo underneath the curtain and see what's going on back there. And if you still want to subscribe to that belief, then you go on ahead. But, the saddest thing in the world is people are brought up with the fact that they can't change, that you cannot change your belief system ever. And it's so stupid because every day you can change your belief system. You can change your belief system. Yesterday you could have thought you were a loser. Today you're a dreamer and you're going to start something big. Every day you got the opportunity. Every day you've got the opportunity to say something like, I used to be late to everything. Not anymore. I used to interrupt people all the time. Don't anymore. It's just when you find yourself in a bad habit, the people who annoy me the most are like, I'm always late. It's like, that's not okay. So I do know you're always late, and that's why I tell you 6:30 instead of 7 now. So there you go. Changing your beliefs and go as you get older and as your brain matures and as your life experience changes everything. I mean, you can move that around. And what suited you and what works for you at some point in your life, it just has no use now. Sometimes.
Yeah. What is, if I recall, lots of the old timers when I first was in the rooms of AA would say that they would say it was okay to fire your higher power. You can fire your higher power if that's what isn't working for you.
Right. But that's the scariest thing is that's what religion breeds, is that obstinance, that completely immobile structure that can't be bent unless man wants to take a chapter out of the Bible, and that's of course you can do that. Beliefs are constantly being altered, whether you know it or not. Right now, someone's tearing out Psalms 101 out of the Bible. And I know that I don't know anything about any of the names of the things in the Bible. So, but this is constantly, it's being altered. So why can't you alter your beliefs? Why can't you have the freedom to stop being religious and be spiritual? You can do it. I remember talking to a girl. She said, I'm so proud of my religion. I'm very religious. I'd go to church every Sunday. I'm scared of God. Raised my family God-fearing. We're very religious. And I'm like, so you don't consider yourself spiritual? And she's like, no. Almost like she was brought up, you're not going to be a hippie spiritual person. You are going to be scared of God, and you're going to go down this path. And I know you're going to do a lot of things in your life that you're not happy doing, but you're going to do them because God wants you to. And I feel my heart breaks for her. Because I don't know if she's ever going to get to taste what it feels like to not be religious and to have that spiritual freedom.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what I was going to say about that. Your thoughts have brought me to the understanding of, to use the word, we evolve. We're evolutionary. I think we were meant to.
And question things.
Yes.
And we are little scientists, and we need to pay attention to what we learn in this life. And I don't know if we get to take what we learn this time around to the next experience or not. That's always my question. Like, I don't even understand why I'm here. What am I, like, for me, I look at the earth, I feel sorry for the earth. Humankind came on and we just devoured it. And we're going to leave it in tatters, and it makes me so sad. And there's a few of us that are moving towards trying to make it better, but not enough. And that's when I start, like, I have to really focus in on the spirituality side of it. Like, you got to believe that everything is happening for good. You've got to believe that if you keep on thinking that things are happening for bad, then that's what you become. And I don't want to do that. So then you got to surround yourself with really good-hearted people that are trying to make a difference and do the right thing, because that's all you got. But as long as I'm on the right path and doing the right thing, I feel good about me. And I try to definitely only be around people who are like that or better. I'm tired of hanging around the people who aren't like that. That's for sure. I'm not going to teach them anything. They're done.
Imagine what it would be like to discover at the end of your life that you were supposed to live it and there was not something on the other side that was more glorious than what you could have created previously.
I mean, that kind of makes it easier if we're just supposed to be here just to, like, you're supposed to just be out there playing tennis all the time and have a good time. That's all. You wanted to come down here. You said you wanted to come down here and eat chocolate cake as much as you wanted. You said you don't care what happened. You just want to do this and you want to do that. And here you are and you're doing those things. And now you're still bitching because you don't know why you're here. But that's why you're here, because you wanted to come down here. So you signed the contract. You came down here to have this experience. Enjoy it. Quit worrying about everybody else's experience. They're doing their thing. You do yours. Don't worry about it. If it doesn't impact your life, if it doesn't impact your life. If it impacts your life in any way, you get the right to bitch. But otherwise, just be happy for them. Just like, that's weird. That girl's wearing boy pants. I don't like that.
That's weird. Weird seems to be the word of the week.
I mean, one cool thing that did happen this week is I was doing a pressure washing job and it was just me on site. And I don't remember what I was in the middle of doing, but a Hispanic, and the reason I'm bringing up the fact she's Hispanic is because English was definitely a weak spot for her. So she came out, she said, "Excuse me." I could barely understand her. I turned the machine off and she said, "You're doing this." And I said, "Yeah, what?" And she goes, "You do this?" And I said, "Uh-huh." And she looked at her friends that she was with and she's like, "Look," I mean, almost she didn't say it, but I felt like she was like, "Look, it's a woman doing a man's job like that. We could be doing that kind of stuff." And I felt like that's what I took away from it. If I made it up, whatever, I feel good. But that's the kind of stuff that's why I feel like when I feel like what kind of mark am I making, to me was like, thank you, God. I needed to have that happen. I needed to feel that I was making a mark somewhere. Right? Even though you're constantly making marks and Leslie, don't feel sorry for it. It's not that. It's just sometimes I feel like I want to bring a lot to the table and I want to know that I'm bringing a lot to the table. And that experience for me was I brought something to the table.
Yeah, something holy happened there in that little tiny moment.
Yeah. And I felt like it was so good. And then, and it makes me want to get more females involved in the exterior cleaning, pressure washing, because it's a man's game out there, but it's so fun. And I'm one of 3 female pressure washers in Austin, but there's 2 others. That's good, right? I mean, there could be 4 others soon.
It's also ridiculously satisfying.
And also, when I am pressure washing, it's spiritual because I do feel like while I know the water itself attracts bees and dragonflies and butterflies, I get to be around all that. So I always think when it's a dragonfly, it's my friend Rachel visiting me. And when it's a cardinal, I feel it's my friend Nikki. And like I see so much nature when I'm out. So I get to kind of like put little, I don't know, beliefs onto certain things that make me feel good when I'm working. So, but it's fun.
I mean, and that's the heart of spirituality, really. It's, and that it doesn't have to live in a book or a
I like that. Yeah. It doesn't have to live in a book.
Yeah.
Your spirituality is your spirituality. You cannot tell me if I said something and I said, that's my spirituality. You couldn't say, that's not spiritual. You can't tell me what's spiritual to me. That's, like you get to really, that's yours. You want to be spiritual? Be spiritual. You want to be religious?
There are those of us who are religious who can also be quite spiritual and pretty cool. So.
No, you know what I mean, though. I'm not talking about that. And I'm sorry, I should have qualified that statement. But, there's just the strong religious that will not budge off of the beliefs that they've read in a book that people wrote. I'm not even going to go strong on the guy thing. That other people wrote down in a book, you're taking as a factual thing. And that's completely up to you to do. But I am judging you from here. But anyway, you were supposed to laugh so much sooner than that. Yeah, but the spirituality thing, that is an everyday thing. I just don't know if I ever really equated it. I liked going to Unity. I didn't care about the gay part of Unity. It's just, for me, it's just another, God, I'm so lucky to be living in this time where it's okay on the whole. It's okay to be gay. It's okay. Like, it's not a second thought for me anymore, especially living in Austin. When I went to Tennessee to go visit my friends, they had to talk to me and they were just like, and it was Johnson City, Tennessee. Okay. All right, little lady. So they talked with me and they're just like, so when we're out and about, we don't talk really loud about it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you'll notice that we're not, we don't hold hands. We're just, don't act gay in the city, please. That can lead to bad things, especially for us. Wow.
So this was other people in the alphabet gang telling you that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And they lived there. They had to live there because my friend Steph's husband, who she had 2 kids with, lived there, and he wouldn't let her move out of there because he wouldn't let her take the kids, which is what it is. So they had to stay there. But I just remember going and visiting, like almost every car had a bumper sticker that had a stick man plus a stick woman equals marriage. Just stuff that really, I just thought, that's so offensive. It's just so, whose life are you going to change putting that bumper sticker on your car kind of thing? Like, all it's doing is pissing us off. You're just making us more gay. That's what I want to tell them. Like, I was kind of gay before I saw your bumper sticker. Now I'm super gay because of you. Thank you. But it's so hard to be in situations. The reason I bring that up is just their belief system is just so strong, and it's so uncomfortable for me to be in that kind of environment, especially me. So I'm glad to be in Austin.
Yeah, and I'm a native Austinite, so I didn't come across that. We haven't even ever had gay district like Houston or Dallas, and I don't think we've ever needed it. It hasn't been. We've just been.
Ever since I moved here to 87, and I just remember feeling so at home and being gay was just part of who I was and who I am, and I was just me, and I never felt quashed by anything here in Austin. I can't think of a time where the only time I ever felt quashed is when I went into a different city where someone was just like, hey, so here in Tampa, just keep the gay down. My friend actually told me that, keep the gay down. And I was like, do you think I just like throw my head out the window and whistle at hot chicks when we drink? What does that mean?
I think that means that who you were talking to has what is known as learned helplessness by being affected by the straight people around them.
I mean, I tend to agree with that.
I mean, possibly we do that. We absolutely do that. We want to make them comfortable instead of being comfortable.
Yeah, no more.
And it's also it can be dangerous, and I appreciate that. But for the most part, it's learned helplessness. It's because it's uncomfortable to be. It's because it's uncomfortable to be who we are in a culture that thinks that we need to be like them, and that's not my problem.
I agree with that 1,000,000%.
That's your problem.
Like that. It's not my problem. We should just get t-shirts made. Not my problem. Oh, are you offended? Not my problem.
Is there anything else you want to say? For instance, if there's anybody out there who's 20 or 30 years younger than us, or even 40 years younger than us, who is struggling with their identity and spirituality, is there anything you would like them to know?
That nothing is permanent, and you have the ability to change anything to your liking that you please. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. Start your own business, young.
Well, Leslie, thank you so much. I'm so glad we got to visit.
Me. That was so fun.
You bet. Thanks for joining us for My Spiritual Friends. I'm your host, Joni Lorraine. If you enjoyed this experience, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast and YouTube channel. And thanks for joining us for My Spiritual Friends.